Hello, welcome back to actual play. Our first game of Sync. It's been so cool. Our characters are so rad. And we're back now for a third part, and I think we're gonna do city stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna do cities. One thing actually we need to wrap up for characters is what your collective is.
Mm.
This is really quick. There's not like a sheet for this yet. It's kind of in beta because I'm not sure if you need it, but basically your collective is the thing that brings your characters together. So what are they working on as a group? And I have a list of things. So your activists, like how were you activizing as a group? And like the things I wrote down is that you are creating media that highlights examples of systemic oppression. You're working to make tech cheap and accessible to the community. You're creating pathways for people in the neighborhood to succeed. You're highlighting safety issues to political groups, or you're campaigning for people who have no voice. So I feel like one of those things might be the main way that you tend to do stuff, and will kind of color how you can make your group moves basically in the future.
Cool.
So what sounds exciting? What do you think works for all of you? I mean, I think multiple ones of these could fit into your characters. You could make tech cheap by like actually creating that, 3D printing that tech. You could create pathways with like your social savvy and understanding of networks and patterns. Media might not fit as well. I feel like any of you have influence over media as much.
Right.
I don't know. What do you think?
We had the media, tech, pathways. There was a matter of accessibility for. Can you remind me?
Yeah. Repeat that list one more time, just so we can.
Yeah. So we have creating media that highlights examples of systemic oppression, working to make tech cheap and accessible to the community, creating pathways for people in the neighborhood to succeed, highlighting safety issues to political groups, and campaigning for people who have no voice.
The last two resonate with me. Well, I could see a lot of them. Highlighting safety issues. I feel like resonance with Tessa. I don't know that it would necessarily with Nash and Leto. A pathway for others to have a voice also makes a lot of sense, and then I feel like a lot of us would be good at helping other people send their message. But then I think it necessitates us developing whoever that is, whatever message we're trying to amplify. But both of those resonate with me.
Cool. Any other feelings?
Do you have an opinion or thoughts, Karen?
No, I'm kind of on board with what other ideas.
Okay. I am less interested in campaigning because I feel like it's and this is a framework that is not inherently helpful and tells us more about me than maybe about the space, which is the idea of like asking for things from people in positions of power. Mm-hmm. I don't want to ask. I want to do things. Like I don't want to pressure people who I already imagine are never going to do the right thing. So the idea of creating pathways for the people in our community to succeed really jives with the like, no, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's the way in my head, my experience of those two things. So I don't know if that helps or gives anybody else other more opinions or words.
I like it a lot. My one concern is it distances us a tiny bit from the attachment to the end result. So if we're campaigning for a thing to happen and it doesn't happen, that's like a real big bummer. Or if it has negative results, even things go the other way or things. And if we're kind of making a platform for other people to have their voice come out, then their success or failure is less immediate than if it's our success or failure. We still are succeeding in giving them a voice or failing in giving them a voice. So there's still a measure there. But I wonder to what degree we want to see the change be really in our, like you said, in our hands, like in a thing that we're doing.
It feels to me like we're making our own change. As Andy said, it definitely, in terms of like what Tessa's art is, you're working to make not necessarily tech, but amenities cheap and accessible to the community. And I think we're working on that, and we're creating those pathways. So I think in terms of the working and creating, we're doing those as opposed to trying to be more visible. We're just going out and doing things and putting them
doing the stuff. Yeah.
And we're just like, and here is this piece of art, here is this furniture, here is this thing.
Yeah.
Does that, I'm going to reflect that back to you and see if maybe this is, if I understand correctly, which is, does that maybe mean that we're working on making tech, and I mean tech in a very holistic, broad sense, cheap and accessible to folks? Because like that's, because when you say that, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense, because technology, accessibility is space, and how do we use that space, and how do people exist when they are houseless? And right,
I think that one definitely feels the most applicable, especially since that seems to tie in most to what Tessa's working on.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure entirely what Nash and what Lido are like actively doing right now. I feel like we might kind of be caught up in this wake of Tessa's projects,
which would be cool.
I could very much see Tessa as someone who brings people in, not necessarily without them like, here, hold this. It's like, okay, now we're doing this thing together. I think she makes a lot. I think that she's makes space. She might inadvertently ask people's help without really checking in with them whether it's okay. She may not be as good about consent rules in that regard, but I think she's very good at drawing people to her what she's doing.
Well, and Tess is making physical things, but Nash is making digital things, more or less.
Yeah.
You can manipulate data, right? So those are both active things that you're doing. And then Lido is just kind of more of a personality, like you physically take actions.
Yeah, he's very much a support for that. He'll be the workhorse. And I think I'm also trying to think about how to tie in his glitching of like asking for too much. And I feel like he just asks for attention in this very passive aggressive way.
I'm really excited about this.
Lido is reminding me of someone I know in real life, and it's this sounds great. So it sounds like the one that makes the most sense is creating pathways, or working to make tech maybe just make accessibility for people, or something like that. Because you're not necessarily printing phones or whatever, but you're making things accessible for people.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's your agenda. It's the collective's agenda.
I like it.
I dig it. I feel like there's lots of ways that we can approach it too.
Making things accessible. That's like my design goal.
So good.
Yeah, it's really good. Okay, awesome. So now that we have the collective's agenda and we're completely done with characters, we can move on to the city.
Woo!
Yes, and the city, like I said earlier, is Miami, because it's the only one I've had the ability to write up so far. So thank you for going along with Miami with me.
Great. So
yeah, Miami is also one of my favorite places in the real world. So very cool. Eventually, the other one will be Detroit. I think those are the two settings for the game.
Fantastic.
I also love Detroit. So I recently learned this word, and it's kind of funny because it's heterotopia, and that makes it sound like it's a utopia for heterosexual people, which is not what it means. And it's not my game in any way. But heterotopia is a place where like people who live there have few or no intelligible connections with each other. So cities in sync are heterotopias, like people are disconnected. And this is why you're failing. So, this is kind of like a metaphor for how, people in neighborhoods don't talk to each other anymore.
So they're siloed, kind of.
Yeah, or they're just not for whatever reason, culturally, technologically, class.
Sure. I mean, Amazon's delivering all our groceries to us. We don't need to talk to people. We all have our individual cars. We don't need to rely on any other people. We don't need to talk to people.
We live in a framework of who is going to hurt me, who's unfamiliar, and thus inherently a threat to our well-being. We're very perception of risk is anyone we don't know. Also, we don't have shared community spaces. Everyone has their own private everything. Be that cars or where's public spaces, the library.
Yep.
So grocery stores, places where you have to where you do still shop for things that aren't just immediately brought to you. The DMV, that kind of like things you got to do, get your hair cut. And in those spaces, you're on your phone, right? You're still, even though you're around people, you can totally check out and not engage with any of those people.
Yeah. Although in sync, being on your phone is okay because you're still talking to people on your phone.
It's not meant to phone shame people. Just a way to
Don't, tech is not the evil thing here.
It's just being connected in a totally different way where you're not connected as much in. Yeah, if you're going and getting your haircut, when you might be on your phone the whole time, chatting with your other friends and seeing what's up and connecting with them, and you're kind of totally ignoring this person in front of you.
Right. Yeah, especially someone who you're paying to do something, right?
Yeah.
It's very transactional.
Yeah. So that's kind of like what a heterotopia is. So think of that going into the city. Remember, we're 10 seconds in the future. So I made this sheet about Miami. So in near future Miami, too many hurricanes have been flooding parts of the interior, making certain parts of the city underwater and transforming some old roadways into waterways. The culture is still predominantly Hispanic and Latino, and the history has a great influence over contemporary race and class issues. So Miami has, all American cities, a history of colonialism, Spanish colonizers, and later on white flight. So white people. Sorry, I thought I heard something. White people leaving the center city to go live in the suburbs, leaving many racial minorities in the city itself. So that's kind of what colors the culture in the city of Miami, even in the future. So that's kind of what we have going on in the city. And then these are kind of lists on the Miami sheet of what types of things we would like to see. So the first one's really long. It's locations. These are things. I don't know the best way to do this. I can probably just read them and you can tell me which ones you don't want, maybe is a good way to do it.
Are you looking for a lot of these do you want us to pick our 3 or do you want us to have everything but 3 or just whatever, as many of these as we want?
I think we should just choose as many as we want because we should have a lot of locations that inspire us.
I feel like there's so many. We should probably just pick the few that jump out rather than do the process of elimination.
Okay.
And the nice thing we can do too is we can pick the things that we're excited about and try and keep those locations pretty tight. But that doesn't mean we can't then be also cut to, right? So it's not like we're saying no to things, but we can avidly say yes to a few of them and stay focused. And then if we also then need to be on a private beach at a later point in time, that can happen, right?
Yeah, I'm into that. So should we each pick 2?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. Well, you should each. Well, I'll pick some too.
Oh yeah, you pick.
Yeah.
You're playing in this game.
So
I do want a private beach. I'm gonna go first.
Cool.
With my executive power, private beach.
There's a reason why that's first on the list.
Yeah.
I think the issue of private beaches is really interesting and relevant. And I definitely want underwater clubs.
Well, there we go. I was like, underwater clubs. But
Okay. Karen, you want to go next?
I'm seeing a couple of things that stand out that I like, the kind of mashing them all together. And I think it's also relevant. So there's I like the boardwalks with, where did it go? Outdoor seating everywhere. So just very, the boardwalk is still a place where a lot of people gather and hang out. It's open social space. And then, but I also like the idea of not only balconies and window cafes, but cafes and restaurants being elevated as opposed to being street level. And there's this classist bit about it of, wanting a view. So there's lots of elevated window cafes and balcony seating for restaurants. Yeah. And places that used to be housing have been kind of more pushed out for these commercial uses. So the boardwalks are more popular for depending on your income level of like where you can go and have fun.
Cool. I love it.
Yeah, that's really good.
It's also a lot like Miami Beach. Like the Miami Beach boardwalk is infamous for being weird and, in the past full of like gang members and drag queens, people carrying birds and hawker, like all kinds of strange, muscle bound, beautiful people and very tiny bikinis. So yeah. And it could go from all the way from the weirdness to like the very high end, like Gucci nonsense.
Yeah. I think I was watching a show once and I paused it and I turned to Sean and was like, someday, in an alternate universe, I could be rich enough to have lunch at an outdoor cafe with white tablecloths where they serve the water in giant wine glasses. Like I just found that aesthetic ridiculous. I was like, there's something about your water glasses that is so extra and excessive.
Yeah.
And I just
that was Jessica Jones.
Oh yeah. It was Jessica Jones meeting her mom for lunch, and I was just like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. I just finished season 2. That is rough, but that's a sidetrack.
Yeah. Anyways,
it was good.
Yeah.
Sean, what do you?
I really want a place to break, like a place that I've been a place to vandalize and or have been vandalizing, and by vandalizing I mean trying to change the shape of it. And so I'm feeling like shopping financial district. And I think it's borrowing a little bit from San Francisco, that it's just like smack in the middle of other things. It's really entrenched, and it isn't something that's been able to move because the buildings are so sort of set there. So as people have sort of spread into these areas, there's been a lot of attempts to keep them out. There's been a lot of attempts to keep this is just right next to more populated areas. And so they're really trying to do everything they can to fence it off without appearing to be fencing it off. Like you still want everything to look open and nice, but there's just all these detractions like private security that sort of shoo people away, and other invisible or pseudo invisible means of keeping people away from wandering in.
Absolutely.
So yeah, thinking lots of San Francisco financial district. And then I really, when I think of Miami, like one of the things, and I don't know where in particular I get this, but one of the things I really think a lot about is food trucks. And really amazing food, but also possibly like reasonably priced food, and like a real kind of nomadic culture of it, where they have to pop up wherever is like, obviously there's certain places that are reserved, but I'm imagining a lot of people also sort of popping up their truck where they can and hoping not to get fined and whatnot. So that's
awesome. Yeah, the food in Miami is one of my favorite things about it. So food trucks is a great choice.
Excellent.
I don't know, maybe they're like hover trucks, or like, I don't know. Remember in The Fifth Element when he wakes up in the morning, he goes into hover truck. That's probably too far in the future, but like, I don't know, maybe something.
But I could definitely see like ATV type trucks that can get into like really like weird, awkward places. Like maybe not hover, but like big wheel food trucks.
Yes.
Okay.
So good.
Yeah, I definitely
robust.
Maybe they're off-road on water food trucks that can like move through the water too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Superb.
Yeah. What's it called? Somebody in chat's gonna know when you have a vehicle
Yeah.
that can go both back and forth between
Oh no.
Expensive and broken.
I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely did not mean to say shoot people away. Shoo people away. Sorry.
Oh, I didn't hear shoot.
No, it was
That's
Panther
different.
on chat did, and I was like, no, shoo.
Oh my
Yes,
God.
amphibious. Thanks, Figure 4.
Oh, amphibious food trucks.
That does not sound like something.
I love it.
That's
I'm writing
great.
it
Well,
down.
and like
That's what
on
they're
the high
called.
on the high end, you imagine like basically like hover technology kind of things. On the low end, I imagine like a swamp boat kind of
Yes.
things. Where
Yes.
it's like that
That's what I
can
was
literally go over anything. It can go over land too, because it's just that powerful a fan, you know?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of canals then.
Yeah, there's a few. There's like some.
Mm.
Yeah. There's basically some roads have been flooded and now
A
are
very Venetian.
waterways.
That's
Yes.
great.
Duskvalian.
Is it Duck
Mm.
Falls?
Yeah. Yeah,
Dust Fall,
Dustfall
it
is
sounds
filled with
like
canals.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mhm.
Cool.
Unintentionally derivative. Cool. So Andy, what
good.
are yours to?
I think it's really important that there's a skateboard park.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
That feels like a place that Nash actually spent a fair amount of time at. Weirdly, like that feels like a real good
Yeah.
loser college dropout person like who likes to move around, right? Like,
Do you have multiple boards yourself with like
oh,
different
absolutely,
sizes and wheels and
yeah.
things
The
about
bearings,
skateboarding I don't understand?
Does-
yeah, the
does
bearings.
Nas- Does Nash let? I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt.
Nope. Okay, go for it.
Does Nash let Tessa work on her boards?
Hmm.
We'll
Does
see.
Nash let Lido work on her boards?
See what's happening here.
Oh,
Do you have a motorized one? At least one you have to have motorized.
one has been motorized. Maybe
there-
with
There's boosted boards and hoverboards of all
Yeah.
kinds, I imagine.
Mhm.
yeah. So Nash has a collection, and maybe I don't know who gets to work on. The answer is very carefully. Like you get to work on one of them. You get to work like
Mhm.
yeah. That sounds. Oh no.
Do you think that sometime when Lido was just like over hanging out, he kind of like picks one up and starts fiddling with it, and it's like, oh, could you? Oh, okay, that one.
And then
Maybe.
and then it was better. It was better. Like and then Lido left it better than it was. So then trust built, right?
Hmm.
There's still the one board that no one can touch. Probably.
Absolutely.
Right? Just a hunch.
Hmm.
Super good. Yeah. So skateboard park.
Yeah, love it.
Yes.
And then I one of the things that I saw on the list that I was interested in was a dive bar, but I'm more interested in being outside.
Mhm.
And there was a rooftop hangout. That's the one that I was real because I know that there's like we just
Yeah.
talked about the class thing, and I would love there to be some place that is like on top of a building that you're not supposed to necessarily be on.
Exactly. We reclaim that space even higher
Yeah.
on the DL a little bit of
Yeah.
having hangout space and clubs up there.
If the ground floor was flooded, it would be very reasonable to have that building be decommissioned for health and safety reasons. And so maybe you get to it by the second floor via like a broken window, and then you go up the stairs to the roof.
Yeah.
So it's a condemned building, but it's still totally cool.
Yeah, I love it. It's like a rave warehouse, but like on the roof.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want outside spaces, so that apparently I just really want to go outside, like, and for it to be summer now, and I want to be in Miami now.
Yeah,
Yeah, I hear you.
I picked Miami over Detroit because I'm like summertime, please.
Yeah,
It is a gorgeous weekend out today after being
Is
cold and rainy during the
Oh.
week, and I have been inside the
Thank
whole
you.
time.
Thank you for joining us here today.
Oh no, this is delightful.
So
I've been inside doing lots of fun things and necessary things as well. But
okay. Well, I
like,
hope there's some
it's
outside for you all soon. Good luck.
Mhm.
And you can walk the cute dog of yours.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure, yeah.
Cool. So we've got all our locations. They are a private beach, underwater clubs, boardwalk, outdoor seating everywhere, which is kind of
Love
like
it.
elevated cafes, balcony seating for restaurants, kind of posh.
Mhm.
There's a shopping and financial district that is pretty clear about who they want there and who they don't want there. There are amphibious food trucks where you can get delicious food, which we'll talk about the food soon. There's a skateboard park with all kinds of interesting skateboards that are boosted and not boosted. And there is a rooftop hangout that's like a dive bar on top of an old flooded building. So these are our main setting areas.
It's really exciting.
Yeah. And then these are kind of anywhere in the city because, well, I'll think about that. Let's move on to the next thing. So the next thing is art and culture. So this is a smaller list. So maybe we can choose like 3 of these we'd like to focus on. So they are like the international scene in Miami, industrial design.
Yes.
Bright colors, so like tropical colors for everything. Designer brands, street art, live theater, the Miami accent. We're not going to do accent. We're not going to do cultural accents or racial accents in culture, but the way Miami people talk is pretty particular, like everywhere in the U.S., and that's kind of cool. So, yeah. Karen, do you want to start?
Sorry, which one am I starting with again? What am I looking at?
Oh, this is the art and culture section. It's right.
Got it.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Oh gosh. I think there's very much an international scene.
Cool.
I think everything's very multicultural. I think more with still, as you said, the predominantly Hispanic and Latino, given the location, but there is a vibrant international scene.
Rad.
Kind of underneath that.
That makes it so that international corporations could have some hold here too.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I forgot to pick one. So I'm gonna pick bright colors because I love the colors in Miami.
Awesome.
So buildings are like turquoise and pink, and you know, there's color everywhere. It's painted on the walls, and you know, just kind of embedded in this tropical landscape.
Now, Kara, you said let's pick 3, but since there's 4 of us, could I make an argument for us to pick 4 so we each get to add one?
Yes, that is what I meant.
And it's also totally fine. I was just about to offer also, like, I was really excited about bright colors and street art. So like I got one of the things I was really keen on. So like, Sean, what are you on about? Because I feel like
guess what, Andy? What I want is street art.
I feel like we can have 3 because then all of my needs have been met.
Awesome. I really, especially when you said the bright colors, the turquoise buildings, like I then really want to see those bright colors super beautifully graffitied on.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I feel like Tessa is, as a designer and as a creative, like street art isn't her like main shtick, but I would feel really like I wasn't playing this game right if one of us wasn't seen with a spray paint can at some point. Like I know that isn't what I've built her up to be thus far, but I do very much imagine her having her own tag and
Rad.
and like just and knowing a lot, like in terms of like being able to view designs and know people by their designs, like really recognizing a lot of them as well, and like knowing who's is who's, and also that's just like a cultural way of communication, right? Like that's not something unique to her that I think a lot of us might be very familiar with.
Yes.
With that. So
awesome. Should we pick one more or move on?
I'm content.
Cool.
I'm good.
Karen. Oh, she's good.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's move on to architecture. So I guess I need more choices here because there's only like 5 choices here. You can tell this isn't complete. But
that's why there's room below for for write-ins.
We can add more if we want. So the architecture, we've got Spanish colonial, Art Deco hotels. Art Deco is, like things you might see in an old gangster movie in Miami. It's like colorful and it's got lots of angles. There's white rectangular condos, glass skyscrapers, floating buildings, right? Because everything is flooded. Stuff like that. I really like the idea of the floating buildings, so I'm going to choose that one.
Nice.
Who wants to go next?
I would love some Art Deco.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I love Art Deco in general. Would love to see flavors of that all around.
Yeah.
And this is perhaps simplifying our worldview a little bit, but I really want to put glass skyscrapers in there as juxtapositions to all the color that we've been talking about.
Lovely.
The skyscraper by its nature has this very kind of Leto look, like, this gray polished, refined, but also like, but also
they'd be very reflective and glittery and
yes, that's true. So
and also like messing up other people's buildings from the glare.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that as well. I imagine like a shot taken from outside where you see the glittering on the beach, and then as the kind of camera angle comes up, it's like reflected as super like blindingly glittering against the glass, the glass walls of the skyscrapers.
Yes. And Andy, do you have a choice or something?
I keep thinking about like, I don't know what necessarily architecture wise, but the idea of like, we had talked about like, apparently we have the Everglades are a lot closer than we had, right? And we've got some marshland. And so we've got floating buildings and a lot of waterways. So I keep thinking about like mangrove trees and like buildings, like when you push things to the outside where you have like warehouse district dock area stuff. And I realize that's like a location, but like the idea around like boat industrial stuff. And I don't know if that jives or not, but like old tire docks.
So is the architecture you see a lot of in terms of floating buildings also like industrial platforms?
Yeah. Yes, very much. So like I'll go for a walk here in Olympia, and we've got a small port, and there's a boats and dry dock, and there's like the big industrial, like how you get a big boat out of dry dock, and some old like docks that haven't been maintained and they're slimy and wet, and and there's boat houses and there's piers, and so I'm thinking about a lot of that, like the interplay of the wood and all the metal that's gone to rust because it's seawater. Those are the things I'm thinking about.
I love it so much. And you get to see such a juxtaposition of like boats that are just derelict and falling apart to boats that are like in really great shape, and some are just beautifully done, and others are just these massive industrial machines that are
Yeah, cool. I love that. That's a great idea.
Okay.
Cool. That's our architecture. This is a lot of stuff I'm realizing. I'm sorry if it's a little tedious.
I think we're learning by doing. It's great.
We are. It's true. So transportation. We have hoverboards, personal boats, hydro-powered cars. I wrote it down before. Personal drones. I'm imagining people somehow flying on drones. I don't know. The A-Line elevated electric train, Lambos, AI-driven buses that are always late. So,
what's a Lambo?
A Lamborghini.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Excellent.
Lambos in the city.
What do the cool kids have? I don't know these terms.
It's a Fast Furious thing. No, it's not just a Fast Furious thing. It's a car. Anyway, so yeah, I think I'm gonna choose. I like the AI buses
that are always late. Yes.
Yeah. That's actually a thing that's coming to Columbus, Ohio, in a few years. They are building AI driverless buses.
Wow.
Yeah, we got like this grant to do stuff, so that's super weird.
Interesting. I wonder what the I will not go down that deep well of possible questions I can ask about that.
Yeah,
Another time.
Karen?
Well, I think we've already established this variety of skateboards, so hoverboards for sure has to be part of them.
Awesome.
And that's I think that's the newest board tech. It's recent.
Cool.
I kind of want Lido to have other people that are in the driving scene that are also around. So I want to throw hydro-powered cars.
Cool.
I'm imagining other, not as cool.
Never.
But like Lido doesn't like. There's a car culture here. That Lido is part of, and
which is interesting if it's being pushed out by AI, self-driven.
AI and also amphibious, things that can because cars have that problem that they don't go on water.
Yeah, they've got that pesky problem there.
So I can see that culture as both like possibly presenting, I could see it in a lot of different formats. One of them being like that they're also sort of being pushed out as well. So yeah.
Well,
I think it's definitely a culture that is we're clinging to as like as not retro, but there's a certain affection to it, the same way that people are really into classic cars.
I was gonna say like nostalgia, like oriented in a way.
I imagine that time when they shut down one of the strips that you did races on, that races were done because it flooded or something like that. It was like a major bummer. Like, oh crap, we need to find a new place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine roadways being a contentious issue, like new ones being built and old ones dying a lot.
Yeah.
Cool. Andy, did you have one that you love?
Apparently I'm into boats right now, even though Nash isn't. And I was thinking about like, do y'all have an interest in personal boats? Is like one of the other ways in which people move around this complicated, multifaceted future 10 seconds in the future Miami.
I have a lot of interest in that.
Cool.
A+. Cool. Okay. And then this final one is kind of the atmosphere of the city. So like how does Miami relate to other cities in the US? 10 seconds. So how there's always like hip cities and like places where people are moving to.
Can I make a request that we do this one order, Andy, if you're okay with it, in reverse? Because Andy's always getting the last pick, and I'd love to
absolutely
switch that around.
Great.
Let's do it. So yeah, let's start with Andy this time. So the ideas are relevant, vogue, it's a travel destination, it's outdated, on the cutting edge, depressive, or progressive.
I'm excited about this being a travel destination. And then I like all of these a great big deal, but the idea of having a bunch of churn and a bunch of folks who operate in a very different level as guests of the city, as a pressure for the city to accommodate when we're trying to make tech and things more accessible to the people in the community. So there's more pressure about people who live here versus who are visiting versus the people who have control and power. I'm interested in highlighting some of these different groups of people who are part of the city. Cool. So by having people come from outside of the city, we can highlight some of those tensions.
Cool. Love it. So who's next then? Sean?
Yeah, I think along the same lines, I really like the idea of outdated, with the idea that there are corporate plans for Miami that involve resolving the perceived issues that don't involve caring about the people themselves. So I kind of love the idea that stakeholders and moneyed individuals and corporate and sort of leaders see problems in the city. They may or may not be the same problems that we see, but they definitely have a very different approach to resolving them. And I think that the solution, that the impersonal and technical solution is one of those things where, like, if we don't make things better in some way, in a grassroots way, they're going to be made better in a bulldozer it all, pave it all over, and remake it in a new vision way. So I like that I see that as a threat. So
yes, absolutely. Cool. Karen, which one of these do you love?
I am all about travel destination. I think that I'm imagining when we're talking about the private beaches of these tourist compounds where people come and they stay at a resort, they have their private beach, they have everything that they need there. They might go on a bus tour of the area, but we have those now where you really don't go out and see the actual city, which is being driven into poverty because of the tourism industry. So this dichotomy of the outskirts and the more depressed part with the very flashy beachside, super cool and sparkly and shiny tourist destination.
Yeah. Like the kind of like a resort economy.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, cool. I'm not gonna pick one because I think those are great. So we'll stick with those. And then, since we're running out of time, and I know we still want to do playtest feedback in the next 10 minutes, so I was kind of like, should we do demographics to wrap up character stuff, or wait till next time? I don't know. What do you think?
I'm not real sensitive on time. I'm flexible. I know chat may or may not have to go, but I could go for a bit. Actually, I'm going to take that back. We said we are going to do a certain amount of time. We've got plenty of sessions ahead of us. I think we should probably do wrap so we can give time for the playtest feedback too.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like we did talk a little bit when we said that there's an international scene. I think the demographics, all of these could easily apply.
Yeah.
I mean, is there, when you say demographics, what are we picking from right now?
So
like I mean, I see the list of what we're picking, but why are we picking it?
So the relevance is kind of the demographics of your characters.
Okay.
Like, what race are you going to be? Because we haven't picked that yet.
Maybe we can,
kind of based on your location, but we can do that later because we also haven't kind of detailed your personal neighborhood, which is a little different than the city as a whole. So maybe next time we can detail the neighborhood, go into demographics of culture, styles, and food.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yay.
Well, it's decided. So I guess we'll wrap there, and y'all can give me some playtesting feedback. Thanks for being awesome so far. I'm really excited about this game. I think we created some hot character tension and cool setting stuff so far.
It's real good.
Yeah. So I'll give you a second if you wrote anything down to just kind of refer to that, or if you want to write anything down really quick. But basically I'm looking for, how did first session go for you, feedback, and then also anything that kind of stood out to you, something you would change, I guess, is what I'm looking for.
The note that I had written myself that kind of popped up at the very beginning was move selection and how many moves each playbook has and how many you should start with. And there's certainly, I think in any book, there's a chapter on, how you can mod it, and definitely a note saying if you just have a one shot, like pick more moves. If you have a campaign, do fewer moves. So you have more room to grow. But it doesn't seem like the difference between starting with 3 versus starting with 4 makes a big difference in people who only have 6 on their sheet versus 8.
It's true. Yes.
So more moves.
More work for
Well,
Kira.
and you even
Yeah.
had an idea for a move too. Enjoying
Yeah, but the
that.
driver already has like 8 moves. So
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think the driver's got a ton of moves.
How many moves each flavor has and how many you choose depending on how long you're playing. Both relevant. Cool.
And the challenge when making more moves is always having them weighted, because certain characters are weighted to use certain skills more. So you have to make sure that they are activating more skills over others, and then you don't want the same move.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And like basically the way I built the moves, this is not a defense in any way, but basically I tried to include 2 tech moves and like 2 social moves, and then like character description moves were the kinds of things I was trying to create in the playbooks. So that was the balance I was looking for, but I probably didn't reach like a number of them. Like some of them definitely have more than others. So I'll probably build on that and then look at the tech too. Basically, like, is this a +1 to a stat, or is this a connection point? Like, what's the economy of these moves, and make sure that they're all a little bit more balanced.
Iterative.
Yay.
Cool. Andy or Sean?
Gosh.
I have a real strong. I know that we're not specifically doing roses and thorns, but that's how I've categorized it into my brain. A real strong rose, which is that I've been playing in 2 or possibly 3 other games where we are playing activists fighting against oppressive regimes, which I'm very much for, and I've been enjoying those games a lot. But this game, even though we haven't started playing, has felt the most personal and connected to me, and has brought up the more like issues that I grapple with in how I take up space in this world, just in the discussion of it. And I think it's real great that you've kept it so close to home. And I think, one of the things that you're fighting when you say cyberpunk is the badasses with guns. That's one trope. But the other thing you're fighting against is way in the future where things are super distant. And by constantly reiterating that this is just like, imagine our current world, and then just turn the dial a little bit more, makes everything so much more salient, and like makes me think about our world a lot more. And I really, and therefore everything that we do is more impact. So it's real good. This space that we're making together, because it feels very true.
Thank you. That's awesome. Yeah, it's good to be in good company with many activist games. I think we should make as many activist games as we can right now.
Yeah.
More of those.
Yeah.
Political activism art is needed in our current landscape.
Yeah, I agree. And my thorn is really not a thorn in a personal sense. It's a thorn in a what are you going to do to make this game portable sense. Is right now character and setup creation is longer than you could do in a one shot. It's like it's a full game and maybe and then some, which I'm very much enjoying because I'm not in any particular rush. But I think that you might need play sets where it's like, here you go. You're in here's 5 versions of Miami that with all the things pre-selected, and you have a few things actually described, so you have like the private beach and you name one. You're like, this private beach with these 5 details or something like that. And like, that's the GM thing that they then read and you jump into it.
I think having a quick start for the setting would be great. This has been a ton of fun to world build, and we've certainly been like really taking our time and just like really enjoying teasing it all out. But this would take up the entire con slot. And so you need to think about, even if you do end up running a game that has care gen plus world building, do you want that to be a third of the time of the game, half of the time of the game, and set those expectations. If you have a quick start for the setting, that can be a lot, can be more convenient.
Yeah, it's a problem with setting heavy games, I think.
Mhm.
So I talked to Hamish about this because he wrote The Sprawl, and he has created completely separate ways to run The Sprawl at a con for the same reasons. Like the world building and the corporation building is just takes a lot of time, and if you want to, it can take more time or less time, basically.
Yeah.
So I was thinking
Well,
of modeling it in that type of way.
yeah, and if you do end up
Absolutely.
making pre-generated things, I don't know if that's Hamish's way, but if you do end up making pre-generated things, liberally steal from your own games because that's going to be the best material. Like the
Mhm.
stuff we made right now and in other games that you've run will probably
Oh.
be way easier to think of, honestly, than
Yes.
building it all out of your head. So
Absolutely. Yeah. I think giving people stuff to run with like is much like the less there is to choose, the less time it takes. And the easier it is to just like be like, okay, these are all the inspirations I can draw and they're right in front of me. So Andy, were you raising your hand earlier?
Not on purpose. How about I was I was probably sitting here doing some of this. I'm in good shape. Thank you for asking. I am gosh, I've lost the thing. Oh, I was really appreciate kind of to build on what Sean had said about how things are very applicable, how concrete a lot of our descriptions have been. And we've talked a lot about objects, right? And a lot of a lot of tactile things in the world. And imagine part of it helps that because Karen, you picked the driver who deeply cares about this, right? Like their rig.
Yeah.
And I think there might be some borrowed energy from you having the pleasure of describing that, but that synergistic like effect of like, because you care, we all, and then Sean, we talked about the clicky phone, like how long did we talk about a clicky phone at some juncture?
I
while.
think we
Talked
might
about
do
clicky noises for a while.
Yeah, and no complaints. I'm very interested in how tactile this experience has been. And that's a thing that I'm always very keen to try and incorporate and don't always do well. So
I really want the shtunk sound of the staple gun as it goes into like upholster like furniture.
Yeah.
That like very satisfying like sound when you held the staple gun perfectly flat against it so the staple goes all the way in. It's a real good sound and a real good feeling.
I feel like this could easily become like an ASMR game. Like,
I know, we're very tactile.
Yeah.
Tell me the sound that your engine makes when it's at a real low rev.
That's a really cool observation though, and it's really important for me to hear that because that's one of my goals with the game, like art and culture, or one of my cyberpunk focuses. That's what I want to be part of this focus of this game. So the fact that you're getting a tactile experience from it is awesome.
You have something in one of the workshops, don't you? A little bit how to describe things.
I do, yeah.
Or there's something in there that I thought talked a little bit about sound.
Yeah,
I have to go back and read it.
There's one
but
about
we'll get to that.
Yeah, sensory perception.
Yeah,
describing things with senses other than sight.
I think we were already tapping into that about how things sound.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And just our preferred sounds.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking about the hiss of an unmodded skateboard, right? Like the wheels on the pavement. Like,
oh god, yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Cool. So was that your rose, Andy, or was that just
that was just apparently a thing that yes, that was my rose. There, I sound very decisive now.
I love the idea of our next session. Every time we describe the world, it's very sound focused. I love the idea of this being if this were a movie, it would be very soundtrack heavy and lots of sound effects over dialogue.
There's a bootleg copy of The Matrix that I got right after it came out, and it was not very high quality. And one of the things that was wrong with it is there are a few music tracks that were weren't in it, and the scene where Neo goes to the club and Trinity introduces herself, the music is not in that copy at all, and so you hear all these background noises that you couldn't otherwise hear. You could hear the footsteps of Trinity walking up to Neo. Because they were captured and then just like
so bizarre.
And then just like the music just washes over them. And so I just love that like secret sound effects things that like people the listening audience has to like pay real close attention, but we're very intentional about including them.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, the soundtrack is most of The Matrix to me, so that's weird to have the soundtrack be stuff like that. That's interesting.
It's a big time character for them to be absent, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not entirely, it's just some of them.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah,
the
yeah.
bootleg copy that was probably came out pre-production, right? So it wasn't, they hadn't all been added in yet.
Right.
It was wild.
So
We do have,
back to the feedback real quick.
Yeah.
yeah.
Was there a thorn that you would like to mention as well, Andy? And
It will take me a little bit to find the thing.
Okay.
It'll get there, but I don't have a thing right here and right now. Like I didn't have any sorrow in the process of experiencing this thing with you all. So
cool. That's good to hear. I don't think sorrow is an emotion I want to evoke. So.
great.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, awesome feedback. Thank
There's
you.
some feedback from chat, yeah, Sean? Is that what you're about
There's
to
some
say?
feedback. Exactly. Yeah. No, why don't you go for it, Andy? Sorry.
So it looks like Panthera is talking about activism. The activism that we've sort of looked at thus far, it seems to be oriented towards, and they hesitated to use this phrasing, respectability politics. And that they were asking if should be more space for direct action type of activism. So noticing, I don't know if that's oriented around what we have brought forward or in the subject matter of the game, but sort of highlighting that there's lots of different ways to be activists, I think is maybe the question at hand.
I don't fully understand the difference actually of what you're talking about.
Cool.
I just don't understand those terms. Like, what is respectability politics versus direct action?
The example that they listed was like shutting down a factory by breaking equipment or something, like taking direct activism,
like Antifa stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And I would point out that I feel like there's certainly room for that, but in this game, like we absolutely have broken laws to push what we want. But I think it's really worth pointing out that like that also comes at a real high risk and cost. Like that sort of direct activism is has a danger associated with it, and our characters aren't particularly equipped to deal with that danger. Like we're not those super cyber badasses that can hack the corpse and bust all the things. So
I kind of see, that's a great point. I actually kind of see the driver, the punk, and the cyber babe as being the more direct action characters.
Yes.
Like because the analyst and the designer are more kind of influencers and like hackers, like digital manipulators, object manipulators. But the driver is like, I am driving, I am physically interfering with this thing in some way. And I think that maybe more like direct action, like I'm maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm getting confused in metaphors.
I think maybe the question is like, how high profile are we? Yeah. And I feel like for our group, we're very low profile. Like we're going in and we're doing these things.
I see what you mean.
But not, it's not getting televised. We're not tagging it and being like.
But I think it seems like if we wanted to play that, if we wanted to play the cyber babe, the punk, and the driver, and we were like pushing for real, we're having major impact.
What actions are we taking today?
We're doing big things to interfere. I feel like there'd be room for it. I'm not, but there are also points out that maybe that also brushes closer to the violence that the game isn't really about either. So you know, I think it seems like there'd be room, but there'd also be pretty harsh realities of it too. It wouldn't be like a safe thing to do.
I'm going to read more about it because that's an interesting point and question. So thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome.
Was that all the chat feedback?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Awesome. So I guess this is the end of our first session.
Yeah.
Yay!
We're gonna be back. I can actually say when we'll be back because we have it scheduled. Huzzah!
Oh
We're gonna be back on the 29th, same time, 10 a.m. Pacific. So hope folks can come join us as we do the workshops and jump into play. It's gonna be real cool. So
play with our hoverboards and our badass. Yeah.
Have some scenes with feels.
Ooh.
Ooh. Definitely feels scenes.
We can do that too. Yeah. All right.
Heart and hands, go.
I'm Sean, your host. My pronouns are he and him again. I've really loved playing this game, and you can find me more on this channel, playing more games in the future. How about you, Kira? What are you up to, and where can people find you?
Yes, I'm Kira. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a queer cyborg on the internet designing games. And I have a Patreon, which I think there's a link to here, which kind of helps me support me doing that. I'm on Twitch. I'm playing in Girl by Moonlight, which is actually up next on Andrew's channel. Yeah, and you can find me on Twitter. That's probably the easiest place to find me. Thanks for playing my game. This is fun.
So good.
So good.
Love it. Hi, y'all. I'm Andy. My pronouns are she and her. I spend a lot of time here on Actual Play doing rad things like this. You can find me on the good old Twitter as Fictional Mammal. And you can find myself back here tomorrow evening playing Girl by Moonlight, Earth Unmade. That's with Andrew Gillis, Sean Nittner right here, and then Strash. And we'll see what shenanigans happen there. So everyone just stay here with us for the entirety of the internet, and we'll see you all soon.
Just never leave the channel. But they have to leave the channel so they can see Kira playing Girl by Moonlight tonight. What you're playing on Actual Factual? Is that the channel you're playing on, Andrews?
Yeah, it's Andrew's channel, if that's the name of it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So all magical girls, all cyberpunk, all the time.
Yes.
Karen, did you go?
Yeah. I'm Karen 12s. I'm on Twitter at K12s. I have too many gigs. And I'm an editor for tabletop games. Scum and Villainy is going to be coming out super soon. I'm very excited about that. That's a Forged in the Dark space opera game. I also do improv for gamers. I'm going to be teaching 2 workshops at Regional Con if you're in the Bay Area, Kubla Con on Memorial Day weekend. I'm going to be running kind of an introduction to how improv is awesome and can make your gaming better, and then one for LARPers and more like theatery skills. How can you interact with invisible objects like in a believable way and have good characters with strong relationships and status. And I'm going to do something similar also at Living Games, which is either before or after Memorial Day. It's the week before. Doing a lot of improv teaching in May. I'm very excited.
You're doing the world a service.
Thank you.
I have had the pleasure of taking a couple of workshops from Karen, and I have nothing but the highest regards as someone who was very daunted by the prospect and had such a wonderful experience. So my compliments. Thank you, Karen. You're a delight.
Thank you. Yeah, improv for real life applications is my jam. I love it.
So good.
It's good stuff.
Cool.
All right. Thanks all. We will see you again soon. Bye.